Without further ado, let me introduce you to our very first speaker, who I'm highly excited to hear from. Carrie Benedet. With over 25 years experience, Carrie's focus is on building and empowering leaders with strong emotional intelligence and relational leadership skills to develop and sustain a culture of respect and engagement in workplace relationships, with teams, and across organizations. Carrie's practice creates space for growth mindsets, both personal and professional. She works with aspiring and experienced leaders alongside their teams to explore and enable stronger and more resilient working relationships. Carrie strongly believes that inclusive and supportive teams are more effective in both the long term and the short terms. Alongside her deep professional experience across education, government, and business, Carrie holds qualifications in education, leadership, change management, emotional intelligence, and coaching. So she's well armed. With her unique blend of personal and business acumen, Carrie connects across cultures and challenges current attitudes and behavior of stakeholders to develop future leaders and teams. Carrie knows that every leader has their Kokoda story. Carrie has a global conference presence, and a podcast, Thriving Matters. Please do jump on and have a listen. On her podcast, she speaks to ordinary guys and gals, or gals and guys, who are doing extraordinary things in life and work, where they share their thriving habits and their thriving stories. In 2020, Carrie commenced her Global Leaders Thrive program that are now masterclasses. Please help me welcome to the stage, Carrie Benedet. Woo! Carrie.
Without further ado, I do hope you're well. What we're looking at is how do we thrive for human-centered leadership? And all the research is telling us at the moment, anyone you read, you subscribe to, is talking about what employment, what leadership is going to be like for 2030. So the last couple of years have really put us in a place where we have to consider that hashtag people are the profession, hashtag people matter, and hashtag thriving matters. So we've done the hashtags for today, but let's see what sparkles and encourages you to get out your curiosity for learning, for looking at where you are, what you need for your new role, for a change of career, for whatever it is that you lead, whether it's your leading of yourself, leading of your family, leading of your interest groups, your volunteer work, or your business, whatever it is, a small business or a large organisation. So let's have a look at what it is. And this image is quite deliberate. So we're just going to use some images today to provoke some of the thoughts. And I'm going to ask you to do your best to play, to actually do some of these things. It's going to be very practical in what we're going to do. So we're looking for how do we thrive? Now, I'd just say to you, every one of us would have a slightly different definition of thriving and what that looks like for us. It's very important, I believe, to consider that, you know, we can get on the merry-go-round, we can get on huge devices, we can get into habits and practices and routines that perhaps are taking us away from being mindful, because our minds are so full. So how do we thrive for tomorrow, for ourselves and for those we work in? So my first thing is, I'm going to say to you, are you high-fiving everyone else in your life and work and not yourself? It's a big question, and it's a good one, isn't it? Why is this so important? Well, it's because you matter. Your thriving matters and your people matter, no matter where they are. So this notion of being mindful is one of the key thriving strategies that we have when we're looking towards the next decade. We're in it, and it's moving pretty quickly. So one of the things I'm going to say to you today is I'm going to ask you just to put your hand up in front of your face. I want you to actually have a really good look at it. I'm lucky. Most of us have two hands. Some of us don't. And I just want you to tune right in, take a breath, settle into it, and just be calm and look at that hand. And realize how unique and magnificent you are. Our fingerprints are totally unique. That's why we have a fingerprint process. There is no one quite like you. And there is no one that is in control of yourself like you are, and can be quite deliberate in looking at our beliefs, our assumptions, and of course our values. And that goes towards what it is that we are valuing in the way we are getting up and shining each day, whether it's a small pocket of shining in one day versus a lot. Our thriving does matter, and there are ways and means. So keep looking at your hand, and then pick up your finger on your opposite hand. And I want you just to start to do this. This process is one of those mindful activities that helps us alleviate how full our minds are with peripheral things and not keeping us focused. I want you to take that finger and start on your thumb. And as you as you move your finger up to the top of your thumb and then down, I want you to inhale as you're going up, and then exhale as you're coming down. And we're going to do that 5 times. So stay with me, settle in, inhale and exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale and exhale. Now, if we were to do this all the way along, you would then progress to the next finger, and you would do the inhale and the exhale 5 times on each finger until you get all the way down to your pinky. This we can look at as a way to high-five ourselves, to get us into a place where we are present and more mindful about what we're doing, what we're focusing on, or how we are being in the moment. So easy to use. And one of the thriving techniques that I use, recently watched a heart monitor come down as I was having some heart tests. And I said to them, would you just mind if I do a technique first? And we actually watched the monitor, the heart rate monitor, just go boom, 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 down. And they went, interesting. Show us how you do that again. So one of the techniques that we're going to use, and we also use this notion of how unique we are with our own fingerprint. So we're going to be doing things around 5 today. So our thriving is just so important for not just ourselves, but for those we lead, and then how those people in your leadership team, heads of your departments, responsible for various projects, staff members, how they can then use. So anything we're doing today can be used not just for yourself, but for your grandkids, and I've got a few of those, for members of your family, for different techniques. Sometimes someone that you bump into in the middle of the day and they're totally stressed, and just go, hey, do you want to try something with me? Give it to them, pay forward. Let's have a look at why this is so important. Where is it hardest for you to actually think about your own well-being, which really is all a part of our thriving? And I'm going to say to you, we're going to see if we can unlock something. So if you do have a piece of paper in front of you, you can trace your hand. You know how we always trace our hand? We can trace our hand on some paper. If you can't do that at the moment, you're happy just to be here, what I'm going to ask you to do is to settle in and consider what it is that you have in place around your mental or your cognitive thinking skills that you use to focus, to plan, to move quickly from one thing to another during the day, from something that's going well perhaps to a total surprise or a shock, or something that needs to be attended to fairly quickly because it does affect others. So thinking about what it is we have in place around our thinking skills, whether it is a particular mantra we have around our thinking skills. Come on, Carrie, you've got this, you've got it. Breathe and start to work out what else you can do in this situation. What else? What else? Different things like that can work for you. You may have a particular structure. You may be a pen and paper person, likes to write things down and draw them out. So what are your mental skills or your thinking skills that you have in place? I'll just give you a couple of seconds to think about that. If you've traced your hand, pop some of those things that you know you do in the thumb area. As you can see, we're going to move on to the next finger, and we're talking about the physical things that you've got in place around your thriving. So what is it you do? I'm a walker, getting back into it because I've had fractured foot for a little while, but back into walking. And it is a way for me to really think through. Physical things also include the type of diet, what type of things work for me, snack-wise, nutrition-wise, how much water we have. Hydration is really a mini resiliency practice that works so well with our thriving as well. So what is it you've got in place around your physical activities that help you with your overall sense of well-being, and you know you can't miss it. You need to get out and walk. You need to do your exercise. Perhaps it's yoga, Pilates. It may just be sitting and doing some stretching. What is it that you've got there? We're going to move on then to your social, next finger. What it is you've got in place around social. Your social boundaries, perhaps, how you allocate your day, where and when you agree to be part of something, and does that then affect other things that are in your diaries? Do you have some boundaries around these? Interesting thought, isn't it? So what do you do about social? I know for me, love to connect with people. So I moved from a large organisation of about 9,000 people after 24 years working with them, and I knew a substantial number of people after all that time. I knew when I went to work for myself, my choice was to leave that and do my own business. I knew I needed to build the social connections that I do. So there are different techniques I have in place for that as well. Move down to your fourth finger. What have you got for your environment? How do you set up your place of work, your place of play, your place of rest and renewal? How do you do that? What is it around you? Is there good lighting? Do you need fresh air? Do you need certain things to look at so that they can be there as a trigger when you have a moment where you're feeling, I can't do this, the pressure is too great? what is it that you have in your environment? So take stock of that, whether it's candles, crystals, some type of reading that you will always pick up and go, that's what I just needed today. And then our last one we're going to look at, what have you got around your spirituality? Now, there's been in the last decade a massive move from traditional religions to a whole lot of mindfulness, meditation, alternative discoveries. It doesn't matter what you do, as long as you've got some things there that you know are also able to give you some incentive, some value, and some space for you to do the thinking. So the big question there, you've got 5, you've used your hand again, we've used our hand for our uniqueness. What are you going to stop? What are you going to start? The reason we do this is because what do we know about ourselves? Well, we all have the ability to perceive, understand, express, and reason with and manage our emotions for ourselves and others. So our self-awareness is super important. You know, if we have the crystal ball, what is it that we can actually project forward? What is it we can visualize? Where do we need to go to be able to do this? And some of our 5s, our environments, it could very well be that water does this for you. Sand, earth, greenery, whatever it is. How do we know ourselves so we are then tuned in, we observe twice as much with these and these, what it is about the people we work with, the people we lead, and then how can they then amp up their own thriving around understanding themselves and their emotions. Based in all of our work around thriving and human-centered leadership is some information around the neuroscience. I mean, I'm not just talking something that I've created. The neuroscience research in the last 2 decades has been absolutely amazing. And what we know is we can retrain our brain. What we're built for, though, is survival. So when we get shocked or surprised or something changes very, very quickly, we will often go into survival mode. And so what we're doing is becoming very narrow in our thinking. What we need to do is give ourselves some positive information so that our higher brain can create new memories, not only listen to the threats that it has. So there's a lot of information around our vagus nerve, how much dopamine we release when we feel pain, temperature or touch. The only solution we have is to use our 5 and put our hand on our heart to settle ourselves. This is not mumbo jumbo. This is actually very easy to do. And often you'll see people move their hand up to their chest when they're talking, when they're empathetically reaching out to you. So put your hand on your heart, give it a high 5 as well. And you will find that you will notice that you're able to relax because your hand on your heart calms yourself. You then can affirm that you're okay, that you're safe and you're loved, and it allows our systems to be receptive of, Carrie, you've got this. You know where to go. What other things will help you solve this issue? Will help you. What do I do here? So our thriving is based in the neuroscience. The last thing I'm going to share with you is using that high 5 again, finding it hard to get out of bed in the morning or getting going. Well, here's this great technique. It's called get into the bathroom, get out of bed, get into the bathroom and look at yourself in the mirror, right? Bedhead and all, nothing happening. Hand up on the mirror, tell yourself you're okay, you're safe, you're loved, and give yourself a high 5 in the mirror. Give yourself a couple of other gifts as well. Make your bed. Make sure you've got your exercise clothes on. Maybe it's the shoes. If you're a journalist, have that dream journal waiting for you and your pen to start writing out what it is you want to do today, what it is that you want to connect with and complete. But make sure you actually high-five yourself. So we've talked a lot about how to be a human-centered leader through our thriving. If you're interested, I'm very happy to offer you a 15-minute chat with me. Here are the details. I'm easily found on carriebenedet.com. We also have 9 ways to be human-centered leaders for 2030. And if you're curious about looking at your own skill set and mindsets for how are we going to get ready for the next so many years before 2030, well, then the time is right. So how about amping up what it is with your magnificent skill set that you already have so that you can thrive even more in your daily life, in your relationships, in the connections you have, and with yourself, because knowing ourselves is quite an exploration. I like to think we all have a Kokoda story, and that's exactly what I did. One of the things I did for myself, which opened up a whole new world for me, was I did something that was totally crazy. I did a walk, as the first walk ever in my whole life, along the mountain range in Papua New Guinea, to give thanks for bringing up my 4 children in a free country. Now we have 7 little Australians who are part of our team. But the best thing here was I learned more about me. So if you're interested in some ways to think about a career move, to think about a change, it's all possible. If an ordinary gal like me can do it, so can you. Thanks for having me on today. I really appreciate it. Thanks, Anna.
Thank you so much, Carrie. Can you guys please help me give Carrie an amazing big hand? Woo! I'm going to do a clap and a Zoom clap. Thank you so much for sharing everything that it is that you do. Carrie, thank you for giving us insights into how we can better work with ourselves and lead ourselves through the challenges that life faces us with. Thank you for giving us some really good exercises. This is an amazing tool which really engages you. You can't not be engaged as you are playing with your own hand. And it's really the simple things. And I don't know if anybody else tried it, but as Carrie said, put your hand on your heart, put your hand on your heart and tell yourself that you are okay. It's an absolutely amazing exercise.